So, if you haven't seen Casa de Papel, House of Cards, fantastic uh, series from Spain about a revolt of the common person. In fact, if you look which direction? Down here, the professor is one of my most enthusiastic, what is it, tropes, individuals, mindsets? Hard to distinguish, but there's a lot of stuff happening in the market right now. And we're going to discuss this. We're going to look at some reactions to reactions. We're going to react. I'm going to discuss, probably elaborate on a lot of details because it can get a bit obfuscated. But tariffs, market go bad, jobs still holding in there, but companies are starting to get scared about lack of profits because of no buy 2025, a movement that's kind of going forward pretty head forward with the common person. And honestly, this is going to be most of like everything we're seeing now is a very huge blue collar versus white collar situation. The overall aspect is blue collar doesn't care about your stock market. They don't care about where your money is invested. All they care about is being able to survive. And eggs have basically like jumped 500% in most cases, just to survive on food, basic food. So the news media is going crazy about, oh, the stocks are going down and this and that. And then there's people like Asmongold and people on the internet. Let's go ahead and take a look at their perspective. Oh, it's not flipping back. That's not fair. Oh well, I gotta flip myself in a moment. So, I don't care about your fake and gay stock market.
Care about your fake and gay stock market collapsing, boomers. You locked me in a decaying comedy block
Yikes.
apartment over the flu and cost me my job. I'm nearly 40 in the worst job market ever in a century. Because of your greed and selfishness, I voted for this. I'm 24 and I don't care about 401ks. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Remember what I told you guys the other day about how with the Trump tariffs, people weren't going to care because they don't have stocks and they think it's bullshit? And everybody said there's no way they're going to be thinking this. There's no way they're going to think this. Well, fuck your 401ks. I want my country back. And so you're having way more people saying this because
Oh my God.
the big problem is that I think that whenever you have like a global economy and you're competing against, like, let's say people from India that are willing to do the job for like 1/10 the amount of money that you're willing to do it at, or 50% or 80%,
Yeah.
even something less extreme.
Mm-hmm.
Is this good for the country that is providing a platform for this to happen for? And in general, I think the answer to that is no. And what's a 401k? Yeah.
Okay. So here wherein lies the problem. What's a 401k? Well, here's how a 401k works. If people are involved in it, people will protect it. And back in the past, a 401k meant that every individual was able to basically save money for the future, whether it was from a company, um, the Roth version of it. There was a government version and I'm not a professional, so I'm not going to be in the complete definitive way. Um, I'm a mathematician, but I do know kind of the ways around it. But the main problem with the current day 401k is that question. What is a 401k? If you don't know what it is, you're not in it. And sadly, from the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years, there's been less and less people capable of saving money in a 401k. So basically, the only people that are capable of doing that are like the top 10%. And the problem with that is if you're not gonna involve people, not 10%, maybe 20, 30, 40%, right? A good less than majority. If you're not gonna involve people in this system that has been designed to be a retirement fund, people are not gonna care that it's falling apart. That's kind of the thing because they won't be affected. The rule for any event, anything that happens, is if the majority of people are involved in it, they will try and save it. But in the world of balance, the yin and yang, when you have a minority of people, about 10% now, that own 80% of stock equity, basically 10% of the top people in the finance and the rich people, call them that, they own like 80% of the stock market. And when the other 90% aren't involved, maybe they got a little bit and maybe some of them have some in, but not all. What incentive is there for them to care about the other money, the 80% that's not theirs? So just by the mere fact that we as a society in a capitalistic system, it has to function with a majority call, just like a democracy does. People choose the products they buy based on the product itself. If it's good, it's good. Word of mouth spreads that. You can try and circumvent word of mouth with advertising and spending money on advertising. But even then, in the end, you can maybe get a one-hit wonder, and then people are going to realize your product's crap. But in a world where human beings are constantly trying to be separated, not even separated, there's a group of people, psychopaths, sociopaths, whatever you want to consider them, they constantly want to be on top of the other and lead and command everyone else as a slave. We've seen this happening many times in the past. Slaves come in many definitions. The world still has slaves in it. And nowadays, a lot of regular folk that are trying to work their butt off feel like slaves for the lack of care that their job gives them, being replaceable. You've seen a lot of people potentially getting fired on Zoom nowadays, which is horrible. Um, but that feeling is there. And I'm smiling because it's fucking long time coming. Long time coming. There's been people in the top that have been abusing their power for so long. You can call them executives. You can call them what are them? People in the freaking offices above the executives that have like 50 or 40 or 30% stake in a company, and they're getting in the meeting room and they're trying to figure out what the next thing is to make more money and squeeze the crap out of the company and make more money infinitively to the moon. When reality hits, we all come back down to the earth, man. So I'm kind of excited about this because people, I mean, we'll talk further into this, especially the no buy 2025. And for the case of the live version, if you're joining me in the live, this will be edited to be a video, hopefully much shorter than the live will be. But we've got a lot of content to look at, and I'm going to be cutting up a lot of pieces in there that really do justify the full context that I'm trying to create with this video. So we're going to do it live because I like live. It's so much smoother for me. I've got those fancy animations going, and all I got to do is kind of cut the pieces around. Um, the most important pieces of the video. So I'm not a fan of editing. It's so boring. It's so lonely. Sometimes people get to jump in and have a little talk with me, which is great. That's why I like live. But yeah. Anyway, let's go back to the rants by Asmongold. He's changed so much lately. He has. I mean, I'm not gonna say that he's changed. I'm gonna say he's grown up. I haven't really watched him, and I think I've seen a few videos of him back in the day when he was just stuck in World of Warcraft. But modern day freaking Aristotle over here, he's been getting pretty deep with these kind of concepts, and I do agree with a lot, and I disagree with some. So I am kind of for Asman's ideas. But honestly, it's because he does put a lot of logic and thought into it, and every time he gets a question or he gets questioned by his audience, they never really discredit him. They just kind of complain. They call him Nazis and all these stupid disqualifying factors and vocabulary that we've all been indoctrinated to say just to, when somebody doesn't agree with you, they're a Nazi and some bullshit that we basically overuse serious words on an everyday basis. And I think that's stupid. That's a control of language. And that's very 1986? Uh, Orwell, a very Orwellian future. So yeah. Anyway, I'm done ranting about that. Let's keep going.
Exactly, right? And I think this is what's happening to a lot of these people is that people see society and they see you know what it's like? I don't really like losing using a lot of like movie comparisons because it's like it's a movie, but like it's like the end of Fight Club, right? Where like everybody, all the banks get destroyed, and everything is all the debt is wiped out, all the credits wiped out, everything's wiped out. The idea that and why was that so popular among young men? Even then, it was. The reason why is that I think that there is a prevailing idea that young men have that they are born into a rigged system that's actively working against them. And when they see things like, scholarship opportunities for people who have an identity that's different than theirs, like being women or something like that, they kind of are. Well, my that's not the point, right? The point is, see, like it doesn't matter what people it doesn't matter what's true. It matters what people think is true. And so this is what people think is true. And so, yeah, globalists hate us. Exactly. And so this is the reason why you see so much support for the Trump tariffs. It's because people look at, for example, like if you look at the stock market, um, uh, let me just pull it up. I'll just, this is the first graph I can find, right? And so anyway, if you zoom in, let me go back. We'll do like right here. So this is in the last year. So a lot of the gains that happen in the stock market, especially after like in 2020 here, a lot of these gains were amounts of money that were gained inside of the top 1% of the population.
Right.
And I think what you're going to see here, and this is what the tariffs are showing you, is that we are going to have a convergence of people who are, basically extremely nationalistic, and they want the country to act in their best interest and not in the best interest of like some global, international company.
So it's kind of destruct that idea. Globalism to a certain extent is pretty decent, but you have to consider, like you said earlier, if you're trying to compete against countries that are essentially using slavery as their workforce, you yourself would have to result to this factor of workforce, which obviously is not going to be happening. To compete in the market that essentially promotes these sort of, you buy an iPhone. We've talked about this, not me, you, but just generally, we know about this. Nikes and iPhones and all these things are created in China in factories, in kid mills. Like, there was a moment in time I remember maybe 15 years ago when that was a huge subject. And it did not change anyone's perspective on buying products that were made by children, which is sad. It honestly is very sad that we are stooping so low that we're taking in the benefits of someone else's labor, especially children. It's a very greedy mentality. So if you're going to compete on a global level, then the United States would have to also include child labor into its laws, and including very low wages, like no minimum wage. Uh, but that's the problem, and we kind of vote with our money, and we've essentially been voting in the form of, hey, we love child labor. Give me your Temu, give me all your cheap goods. Um, so that's essentially the biggest issue that has progressed to so long that has kind of subverted the individuals that run the companies to move away from US manufacturing because it's more expensive to make things here. And with that in mind, well, there's less jobs for people, less employment, less money creation for the locals. Cheaper goods balance it off, kinda, but over the long term, no employment kind of does hurt the country specifically. You have productivity increasing. He's going to show a chart eventually. And there's this one chart where productivity is going super high, but the wages of people has been stagnating since like the early 1990s, and probably even before. So you do have this real big separation between do we want cheap goods or do we want jobs? Because in the end, if we want jobs and we want to be able to self-sustain ourselves, unless we're thinking some other alternative like universal basic income, I'm for it at this point because with automation and with robots and with the way McDonald's is serving people on an automated basis, a lot of things are going to start getting automated, and we're all going to have to start philosophizing about what our life is and what's worth it. Because once we don't have a job and maybe we do get paid, what are we going to do? I think most of us will consider creating, being a creator, not a consumer. Um, but a lot of people will basically be on the couch watching the next series, talking about the next thing that happened, gossip. And that's not a very fulfilling life. So this is also another aspect that we're entering generally with so many options of entertainment. We're not experiencing life for its basic components: nature, living beings, exchanging with our neighbors. Just today, um, I went to the store and I forgot to get bread, and the lady just gave me bread, like just gave me a loaf of bread. And I'm like, how much? She goes, don't worry about it. Because I went there earlier and I bought a bunch of other stuff, feta cheese and a bunch of other groceries. But at this point, she was like just rushing through, and she didn't, here, just take it. You've been a consistent customer. Just enjoy your bread. Like, cool, thanks. Great. So like, those are just the humanistic things that we don't really think about can actually happen when money isn't really that important. But in a society where people are buying stocks, inflating the economy, pretending that it's the market, or inflating the market and pretending it's the actual economy, and then we're outsourcing all of our workforce to other countries that make things for cheaper, that leaves no jobs for the individuals here. And that's kind of the rising issue. Less jobs, um, not enough pay, and a huge inflation because we have banks that are also being irresponsible with their positions of power and monetary holding of money. They're abusing that power. And I mean, let's look at 2008 bailouts. That money went to the market too. So my question is, how far are we going down? And that's the biggest question we'll see.
And you're going to see that happen, and you're going to see a convergence of that with like extreme left like economic policy, and we're already seeing this happening. And so this is the reason why they don't care about the stock market. It's because the stock market represents a bunch of rich people that control everything, who these people look at as the ones who've ruined their lives. So why the fuck would a young guy who doesn't have any stocks, and they feel like they, this is like, if you're a young man, it's hard for you to get a job. There are, systematic ways that you're disenfranchised or denied
Mhm.
opportunities. And on like the culture, it seems like it's okay to make fun of young men and other things that are similar to that. No stocks, fuck them. Exactly. They want revenge. Yes, exactly. Rust Belt revenge. That's exactly it. And so this is the
That's
reason why
crazy.
you see so many people supporting the Trump tariffs. And this is the part that a lot of people won't say out loud. They want it to go down. They think,
True.
fuck these companies, these international companies that are getting rich off of these, like fucking sweatshop laborers, and, they've put Americans out of a job. They want it to go down. Yeah, buy the dip. No, I'm being serious, right? How does this benefit them, though? Because it hurts somebody that they don't like, and that's good enough.
It's
See,
come
this
to
is the
that
part
point.
that you don't understand, is
And
that
this is
when people
And this is the part that he's essentially saying is we've given up on trying to do this with politics. People have given up trying to trust politicians that eventually essentially have two faces to them. The public face that is getting them elected, and then the private face that is signing things that is benefiting corporations from polluting into the river so they can have less responsibility and less cleanup expenses. And all of the I mean, even indigenous people get affected extremely by corporations. So we see huge benefits in politics, in government to corporations. And every time we get Bernie Sanders, what happens? He fucking gets brainwashed, or I don't know what happened to him, honestly. He may be just trying to fit in at this point. Maybe he was actually brainwashed in one of those dark rooms with the huge projector, and his eyes are just open, and now all of a sudden he's a part of the democratic liberal movement. But there were people on both sides of the spectrum that were supporting Bernie Sanders and his mentality. Something happened to him. Something absolutely happened to him. The way he speaks now is not how he used to speak. He uses his history to kind of back up what he's trying to say now as far as equality goes. But I don't trust that he would go into a situation to benefit people over companies at this point. I really don't think so. Either he gave up or he was brainwashed. Um, but yeah, no, people have tried for so long to work politics into this. So you remember Occupy Wall Street. Let's take a look at something real quick. This is actually a very interesting case for using trends to analyze data. And we're going to go to worldwide, uh, world, man. I mean, you can do the United States specifically too. And we can do Occupy Wall Street. It's an interesting pattern you'll see here. Past day, not much. 2004, present. Take a look at that. 2011. It's huge. It was huge. I don't know if some of y'all probably weren't even born yet. Um, but this was an actual protest on Wall Street. This was people getting stressed, and this is where it started after the 2008 um, Great Recession, financial recession, whatever, GFC, Great Financial Recession. And people got pissed. People got pissed and they started rallying. But you know what's interesting? What happened after this? Woke movement didn't really exist. It was kind of like be woke, wake up back in the day. Back in the day. Like we're really thinking like go up to from 2000. Let's do 2000. No, it's 2004. Let's do 2008. Might need some buffer space. Let's do 2006. That didn't really change too much, but woke when I grew up kind of meant people that are living a life in a clockwork fashion, in a scheduled form, that we lose the spice of life, the randomness of life, the things that can happen around us. We're stuck at work. We come back to home to eat, sleep, go back to work, rinse and repeat. Weekends, maybe go see a friend, or maybe stock up on food because it's the only time you have time to actually do something because you're probably tired the rest of the week. And then Sunday, crap, tomorrow's Monday. Then you actually have a rest day. And then another week, and another week, and another week. Right? That's what happened with the idea of wake up. Very inspired by the Matrix. But then Occupy Wall Street popped up and people got pissed. So the interesting correlation here is it wasn't, if you look at woke, it was one or two. It's a very low value. Very low value. Occupy Wall Street obviously didn't exist in the past. I mean, it kind of seems like less than one, which is weird because it should be zero. And then it popped up after the 2008 recession. People's lives got harder. And then woke became a thing. 3, 4, 6. Woke grew further and further and further. And now it's basically, well, go woke or go broke. But woke turned to DEI. The transition of words is very strong. Being woke became cliche, and then DEI took over. So what does this even mean? This means that as soon as the individuals that essentially run the system realized that they effed up, they bailed out their banks, they used the government funds to do it, which is basically taxpayers, and people were rallying against Wall Street, and the name was Occupy Wall Street. You've got scenarios like Mr. Robot that represents the technological version of this revolt. And then you have the mirror, which is the other end of the coin, in which this is the whole woke DEI concept. A type of psychological operation with words very quickly developed in the last couple of years, especially in the last couple of years. It's gone crazy. 75. This is just basically the hits, the searches online, the interest, if you will. People interested in and searching these particular keywords. And it's crazy how quickly that Occupy Wall Street blew up in a month. In a month, it blew up. Now, I like to compare stuff like pizza, order pizza, to see what's a very basic search that somebody does. That's so low because somebody's probably going to order pizza very often, right? So a very basic anchor, order pizza, is very low compared to, I mean, holy crap, again, Occupy Wall Street in a month, September to October. And now DEI, and it's dropping hard. Look at that DEI. So how do you control people when you start pitting them against each other? Divide and conquer. This is well known throughout ages of human development, history. If you read history, you've seen many cases where humans are constantly pitted against each other. And this was one of those attempts. I think it was almost, almost there. It was so very close to actually doing something. And actually, I mean, it might still have like a type of withering effect, and people will still continue to think about DEI and being woke in the next couple of 10, 20 years. But it got to such a huge effect that quality of everything went down just for the case of hiring people of diverse backgrounds that are not educated, not educational backgrounds. If there were educational backgrounds and you're working in an environment that you could use that to basically merit your skills into the process, sure, but people got hired not because of education, not because of their mind, but because of what they look like. And that's friggin' racism, honestly. I don't understand how people don't see benefits to anyone in any way separated from someone else that may not get the benefit as anything but racist or sexist or whatever case scenario. But that was kind of a coin that's been used against the it was just a coin that was used in desperation to get away from the Occupy Wall Street mentality, because the target was Wall Street, the bankers, the executives, the people that are essentially are going to feel the pain now with the market the way it's going to get affected. And that's what he's talking about. That's what he's talking about. I know I kind of digressed a bit. I'm going to be cutting this up like crazy because I like to ramble about all kinds of subjects. But man, I love data for the love of data. But that's insane. I didn't realize DEI was so prominent the start of this year. And it was only getting stronger and stronger. I'm happy about the reversal because DEI was not a common sense thing. Not a common sense thing. You want doctors to know how to perform surgery, not a white or black or Hispanic person just because you feel comfortable around them. It just makes no sense.
People feel desperate, they'll set somebody else on fire. If people like this feel cold, they're willing to set somebody else on fire to warm themselves up. That's the way it works. And so that's how it happens. It's 40% right. No, and I'm telling you guys, this is what's going to happen. And you're seeing it now. And tariffs happen like this caused the Great Depression. You're right, though. Yeah, but I don't think that these people are already in the Great Depression in their mind. They're already in the Great Depression. They've been in the Great Depression. These are people that have like crushing student aid debt. They have, no real sense of like upward mobility in the society or anything like that. And so they're like, okay, you want to have a great recession or whatever? That's fine. And I think that really it is a nuclear option. It is an extreme nuclear option.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of young men are more than willing to take it. And that's why if you look at all of these posts and people, almost every single person who's posting positively about the tariffs is a young man. Have you noticed that? Because I've been reading about this a lot. I've been reading about trying to figure out, like, what the fuck is going on here. No careers, only entry-level crap. Exactly. And so, yeah, they're Trump cultists. No, it's beyond that. It's beyond that. Basically, these types of things happening, and I'll read this again. This is the way that people think. I'm 24, I don't care about 401ks. I am still paying off my $10,000 car that I had to buy at 12% interest rate because Biden hiked the rates for first-time buyer rates. I have a $250 a month insurance payment because you let 100 million illegal immigrants drive without licenses. My rent is nearly $2K a month because you made it illegal to build and imported millions of foreigners to replace me. So a lot of young guys, they see an old movie, right? And it's like a guy that has just like your traditional everyday job, and he has a wife and kids and a house. And they think about, why can't I have that? And they assume that it's because of these people that have a lot of the wealth. And the fact is that they're right. To a big extent, they're right. A lot of the reasons why these people don't have any fucking money is because all of the money and wealth is consolidated in the top 1% of the society. That they're right. And so the problem is that how
Stock market.
far are these people willing to go in order to get what they believe to be their dignity back? Right? It's everybody else's fault. Yeah, it is.
The excuse was always trickle down economics. You support the big guys on top, the 1%, and there will be money that trickles down to you. If that didn't sound like a scam, I don't know what did, man. Trickle down economics. They actually use that. They use that as a legitimate, oh, yeah, yeah, trust the rich people. They have your incentives in mind. Oh, oh no, not the yacht that they're about to buy, not the people they're about to fire, because now they can replace them with robots. Not the customer service that they've been trying to replace on the phone with stupid automated devices ever since like 2010, 2005, when they could start doing it. Those are the jobs that eventually started going away. And yeah, we kept believing, yeah, 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 don't worry, the rich people have your incentives in mind. They only care for themselves, and that's just general human being stuff and potentially sociopathic stuff on the top of it.
And that's the way that they're going to look at it. And that's the point that I'm making. Why are you making it sound like tariffs are such an insane idea? I don't care about what you think about them at all. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. That's not the point. The point is, why do people support them? Why are people against them? And so it's the same reason why all of the people that were talking so great about Luigi killing a person that, worked at one of these big companies are now crying about the big companies losing market value. It's because they don't care about the person, but they've got stock in the company. That's the reason why. And this is what I've said before about how every single time people have values that are completely self-referential. There's no principle in this. There's nothing in this at all. It's hilarious. No, but am I wrong? Yeah, am I fucking wrong? No, I don't think so. And
Yeah, I
so
don't think
anyway,
so
this doesn't only affect big companies. No, you're right, it doesn't. But it does affect big companies. That's it. And so you're
they're
totally
gonna
right.
set
Yes.
a
And I think
fire
that also
ablaze on
most of the
everything.
companies that people have their money invested into, that they're complaining about stocks, most of those companies have CEOs that, if you used Luigi's logic, deserve a bullet in the back of the head. That's the way it is. And I'm not saying you should do that. I think that's a terrible idea. But that's what he did. And they were, you're wrong? Okay. Okay. All right. Don't say I didn't warn you. I said this is going to happen. I said it was going to happen 2 days ago, and we're seeing it happen now. And I think that there's nothing that's more dangerous than people that have nothing left to lose. And I think that's the reason why so many people are okay with the massive discord and panic.
Because they don't have 401ks or stocks or anything to lose for that matter. They probably got debt and they're still paying off their one car. They don't have three cars in their multi-drive car drive garage, whatever. They just don't have anything anymore. People, and again, I mean, I was gonna go into the no buy thing, but I think I'm gonna call it end here. Because I've been rambling for a bit and I got to get ready for a student. So I'm probably going to make this in parts and then download the pieces and then start editing a kind of more comprehensive video on the subject. But he's right. People, desperate people that are at the brink of, that are at the edge of the cliff and they don't have anything to live for. They don't care what happens. And essentially, this is, like you said, a nuclear option. It's horrible.
Panic that the Trump tariffs create, because they want that. They want that to happen because it's like a visceral revenge that they have against a elite economic ruling class that they feel like has disenfranchised them for their whole life. So they don't have any stocks. They don't care about any of this stuff. They want all of this stuff to burn down. It's like, again, it's the end of Fight Club. And you can say that's bad. You're not thinking too much into the future. And I think, yeah, it is short-sighted in a lot of ways. Absolutely. But it doesn't matter what you think. It matters what they think, because they're the ones that are acting on it, not you. So that's
True.
it. I'll read a few more of these comments, and we'll talk about the tariffs more. But I spent like probably 2 hours reading posts about this yesterday, and like trying to understand, like, what are people thinking, like why is this happening, why is there such a big disconnect, and that's what I think is going on here. It's long side, exactly. Actually, well, for them it's not. I understand that you can have like a long-term perspective, and I think that moving manufacturing to the U.S. is a good idea, especially as we transition to automation, because if we don't have local national manufacturing, the U.S. will cease to be a producer in almost anything other than like intellectual property. So
Yeah.
I think that it's definitely a good decision in some cases to have manufacturing move back over, but this isn't really what people are saying nowadays, right? It's not. They aren't thinking, it's not deep. Well, they are thinking. They're thinking that this is one thing that you need to keep in mind. And this is, remember what I said before about how, like, I can understand why a person joins ISIS, or why a person joins like Hezbollah, or Hamas. And like, people got mad at me. They were like, oh, well, how could you possibly do that? How could you possibly commiserate with the terrorist? This is the same thing.
Yeah,
it's the horrible. Same thing.
It's horrible.
It's just a different flavor, and it's not as extreme. Why are you putting their extreme views on a pedestal? Because a lot of people have them. That's the reason why. Yeah, I don't care about tariffs because I pulled my investments and put them in interest-bearing account. It was obvious this was coming. Yeah, sure. They're acting in their own immediate interest. What does a 401k matter if they can't afford breakfast or basic goods? This is the premise of a tariff enjoyer.
Yeah.
This is absolutely it. They've grown up in recessions and downturns, and the only thing that they saw grow was the numbers of billionaires. Of course, they're mad. They're acting in their own immediate interest. What does some 401k matter if they can't afford breakfast or basic goods? That is exactly it.
At least in medieval times, there was bread and circus. Now we have circus everywhere. Politics, TV, celebrities. Circus anywhere you can watch. But there's people out there that can't even get bread anymore. And that's where desperation happens. And this is why people are on this side of the chaos, if you will. Anyway, I'm gonna end it here because I gotta get ready for some stuff, and I'm gonna get some food. But I'll be using this as part 1 to actually start formulating